sink in the spirit. I feel it, I hear it, I see in your eyes the truth. Falling in love with everything. Falling in love with divinity. Falling in love with everyone. Because God is in you and God is in me. So let me be intimate with the infinite. Let me be deeply revealed. I'm ready to receive your love. Give it to me, give it to me, God. Give it to me, give it to me, God. I am ready to receive your love. Give it to me, give it to me, God. Give it to me, give it to me, God. I'm ready to receive your love. Give it to me, give it to me, God. I'm ready to receive your love.
Dun, 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 dun. And we are live. Hello, everyone. Hi, Darcy. Hi, Diane. Hi, Claudia. Hello, hello. Hello. Yes, good to see all three of you. I can only see Darcy, but hey, Joanna, welcome to the party. Hello. So it is Thursday, June 13th, 2024. Happy Thursday. You're at work. Well, thank you for being here, even though you're at work, Claudia. That's really nice of you. So who's ready to start talking about oneness? Anyone excited? I know I am. Has anyone actually read the book recently? Can you type a 1 in the chat if you have read the book in the past 3 days? Okay, one person has read the book in the past 3 days. How about in the past week? Give me a, okay. Joanna, 2, okay. Give me a number 2 if you have read it in the past week. In the past month, give me a 3. Anyone? Any sound effects? We need sound effects. I don't know why, but that does it for me. Okay, sessions 5 through 8. Way to go, Darcy. Okay, cool. Just making sure. I want to get an idea of what we have going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in a different way so that we can get started with this. 1 second. All right, if you're in this group so far, hey Nelson, welcome, Dad. Hello, hello.
Hey, Steph, love you. Hello,
Hello, I love
everyone.
you too. Hi. Yes, so if you are in this book club, then we are going through Teaching the Law of One. And if you're wondering how are we going to go through this book, well, we're going to be reading through the book and taking citations, resources, passages, quotes from a few different resources. including but not limited to a concept guide, the Wanderer's Handbook, Voices of the Confederation, Living the Law of One, and the Study Guide, aka Resource Guide by Rob Childers. So before we get started, what we're going to do is do a quick circle. Is the same thing they did when they channeled Ra, just because we want to make sure that we leave no room for any thought forms that do not support this material. All right. So what is the law? The law is one. Why are we here? We seek the law of one. Why do we seek Ra? Ra is a humble messenger of the law of one. Rejoice in and purify this place in the law of one. Let no thought form enter the circle. We have walked about this instrument, for the law is one. Also, cute puppies and kitties and babies. Because what? They bring love and warmth to your heart. You know, the best way to combat any negative influences is love. So, cute babies and puppies and kitties. All right, you ready to get started? We're going to go through session 2. I know a lot of you are ahead of our track here because we thought we could get an entire 4 sessions done in one call, but it has proven to be too much of an elephant to chew in one bite. So we're going to go as fast as we can, but I would rather go deeper than just cover things shallow. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read session 2. And then when I'm done reading, my wife, Jaslyn, is going to read the next section. So I'm going to read one section and then she's going to read the next. That way you get the masculine and the feminine angelicness. You ready? All right. So here we are. Session 2. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of our infinite creator. I am with this mind-body-spirit complex which has offered itself for a channel. I communicate with you. Queries are in order in your projections of mind distortion at this time space. Thusly, would I assure this group that my own social memory complex has one particular method of communicating with those few who may be able to harmonize their distortions with ours, and that is to respond to queries for information. We are comfortable with this format. May the queries now begin. So I don't even need to read what I wrote here, but what they're saying is they want to make sure that they're using a Q&A format, again, for free will. And that's the best way they have found to preserve free will. Who here does not understand what a mind-body-spirit complex is? Is there anyone here that does not understand that? Please type 1 in the chat if you do not understand what a mind-body-spirit complex is, or was it social memory complex? Does everyone understand that? Are we all on track here? Yes, we are. Great. 2.1. Jaslyn?
I'm guessing that there are enough people who would understand what you are saying, interested enough for us to make a book of communications with it. And I wondered if you would agree to this, us making a book. And if so, I was thinking that possibly a bit of historical background on yourself would be in order. Raw. The possibility of communication, as you would call it, from one to the one through distortion acceptable for meaning, is the reason we contacted this group. There are few who will grasp, without significant distortion, that which we communicate through this connection with this mind-body-spirit complex. However, if it be your desire to share our communications with others, we have the distortions towards a perception that this would be most helpful in regularizing and crystallizing your own patterns, vibration upon the levels of experience, which you call the life. If one is illuminated, are not all illuminated? Therefore, we are oriented towards speaking for you in whatever supply of speakingness you may desire. To teach, learn is the law of one in one of its most elementary distortions. So they're talking about the book, creating, teaching the raw contact slash the raw materials, the first book. And they're talking about the possibility of communication one-to-one through distortion. Oh, Yusuf, you wrote this one. You want to talk about this one real quickly? Which we communicate
Yeah,
through
so
Carla?
this is what I got from them when I took their language and just inserted more simplistic words. The possibility of communication from us to you through language is the reason we contacted this group. There are few who will grasp without twisting that which we communicate through Carla. This says a lot about us, by the way. If you are on this call and you're even interested in the law of one, which there are few, and I have this prediction that as time goes on, there will be less and less people because only the ones who are really interested in this material really go deep in it. And what they're saying is the possibility of communication from an extraterrestrial entity to that group through this language is the reason why they were contacted. And so if you are on this call right now, the fact that you can understand what was said through Carla, Don, and Jim means that you are one of the few who will grasp without distortion or twisting that which they communicate. So pat yourself on the back. Or is that something to be proud of? I'm not sure. I don't like pride, but I would say that that means that you have patience and you also have the ability to not distort the message. If it is your desire to share our communications with others, our perception is this would be be most helpful in illuminating yourself upon the life. That's what they were saying here. 2.2, questioner. Could you tell us something of your historical background, your earlier times in this illusion, possibly your incarnation on this planet? Have you spoken of that you spoke of before and contact with earlier races on this planet? Then we would have something to start with in writing this book. I am Ra. We are aware that your mind body is calculating the proper method of performing the task of creating a teach learning instrument. We are aware that you find our incarnate, as you would call it, state of interest. We waited for a second query so as to emphasize that the time space of several thousand of your years creates a spurious type of interest. Thus, in giving this information, we ask the proper lack of stress be placed upon our experiences in your local space-time. The teach learning, which is our responsibility, is philosophical rather than historical. We shall now proceed with your requests, which is harmless if properly evaluated. We are those of the Confederation who 11,000 of your years ago came to two of your planetary cultures, which were at the time closely in touch with the creation of the one creator. It was our naive belief that we would teach learn by direct contact, and the free will distortions of individual feeling or personality were in no danger, we thought, of being disturbed, as these cultures were already closely aligned with an all-embracing belief in the liveness or consciousness of all. We came and were welcomed by the peoples whom we wished to serve. We attempted to aid them in technical ways having to do with the healing of mind, body, spirit complex distortions through the use of the crystal, appropriate to the distortion placed within a certain appropriate series of ratios of time-space material. Thus were the pyramids created. We found that the technology was reserved largely for those with the effectual mind-body distortion of power. This was not intended by the law of one. We left your peoples. The group that was to work with those in the area of South America, as you would call that portion of your sphere, gave up not so easily. They returned, we did not. However, we have never left your vibration due to our responsibility for the changes in consciousness we had first caused and then found distorted in ways not relegated to the law of one. We attempted to contact the rulers of the land to which we had come, that land which you call Egypt, or in some areas, the Holy Land. In the 18th dynasty, as it is known in your records of space-time distortions, we were able to contact a pharaoh, as you would call him. The man was small in life experience on your plane and was what this instrument would call wanderer. Thus, this mind-body-spirit complex received our communication distortions and was able to blend his distortions with our own. Ooh, this is a long one. Okay, let's stop for a second. Let's talk about this. Because I understood this perfectly, but you might not have, especially if this is your first go around. So let's see what he said here. We waited a long time to show that a few thousand years isn't very important in the grand scheme. When we share our experiences, please don't focus too much on the exact times and events. Our goal is to teach philosophical ideas, not just history. We will now answer your question as long as it's understood correctly. It was our naive belief that we could teach by direct contact, and the free will of others were in no danger of being disturbed. So when they visited Egypt, they considered themselves naive because they believed that showing up as an actual being, a material being, would not disturb the free will of those of the Egyptians. So Ra is a 6-density social memory complex, and if they're calling themselves naive, they were being naive. I believe them. They just in a concept guide, they describe these efforts. So we came here and welcomed our peoples. Wait, where is it? Sorry. It was our naive belief that we could teach, learn by direct contact. They describe these efforts and those of other members of the Confederation elsewhere in the world as naive due to the harmony of their own past third density experiences. So there was a lot of harmony in Venus. It's not the same on Earth as it was in Venus. So they believed, based on the conditions of Venus, that, oh, if we just pop into their third density illusion, then they'll be as kind as we were. No, we misused it for power. That's what the Egyptians did. They were not well adapted to the ways of this world. And in their naivete, they thought that direct transfer of information to those of Earth could be helpful. Because of this, Ra has, as they describe it, the great honor and responsibility of continuing to work in service to Earth to help remove the distortions and powers that have been given to the law of one, and eliminate as far as possible the distortions caused by those misreading our information and guidance. So does that mean that Ra is still working with us today? Absolutely. 100%. Because they still are here in the honor and responsibility of continuing to work in service to Earth to help remove the distortions and powers, so the twisting and manipulating of the information of the law of one. Can't wait to talk about the elites in a bit. And eliminate as far as possible the distortions caused by those misreading our information. Yes, Jasmine.
I was totally just imagining, because I see the Galactic Confederation like sitting in this circular table, kind of like King Arthur and his round table. And I just imagine them having conversations of like, Earth needs help. Who's going to help? And I could just see Ra just being like, ooh, like 5-year-old version, just like I could totally help them. And then after they finish and they're like, oh shit, they come back to the board of directors. Yeah, we messed up. That didn't really work out. How many thousands, billions, millions of years do I have to now help these people because of my boo-boo, Can you
Yes,
I'm
that
cracking
happens,
up.
Jaslyn. That definitely happens.
Yeah.
I feel like I have memory of being on some of those councils. I've taken many journeys with some other councils, and I feel like, we have memory of that. So that's probably coming from your own memory, Ooh, chills.
Love it. And also just to give an example or some like a photograph so that people can think about like, well, how does this feel for Raw, and bring Raw into an identity format, easier for us to understand. Win-win situations. Thank you. Continue.
So I'm just going to read some of the things that help clarify this. I think all of us got this, but I think we can clarify a few more things. We visited, this is what Ra ChatGPT said. We visited and were accepted by the peoples we wanted to help. We tried to assist them with healing their mind, body, and spirit using crystals. By placing these crystals in specific ways, we built the pyramids. I remember when Jasmine and I first heard this, we stopped it and we're like, wait a minute, did they say that they created the pyramids? We had to go backwards like 5 times. Thus, the pyramid were the pyramids created. So yes, Ra brought crystals to Egypt, and if you are at all privy with crystals or have any experience with crystals or feel connected to crystals, then that is again another sign that you are perfect for the law of one material and studying it and understanding it, because there's a piece of you that feels maybe closer to it and more aligned to it, or maybe you have past lives there. Who knows? The technology was reserved for those with power, so we left Egypt. We have never left Earth due to our responsibility for the changes we caused. Whoa. We never left Earth due to our responsibility. We have never left your vibration due to our responsibility for the changes of consciousness we had first caused and then found distorted in ways not relegated to the law of one. By the way, if you're wondering, Holy Lands, I took this as the Middle East region, did a lot of research, and there's places in Iran, Iraq, Jordan that have a lot of architecture that show figures and beings that are very similar to Egypt.
I also think that in the past, Egypt was much bigger than it is now on a map. Because back then it was like a much bigger area, and then little by little other countries and civilizations took over those spots and created the border that it is today. But I'm curious, if we look at an older map, if it's the Holy Land's actually the whole Middle East or something similar to it.
I would say that that's 100% correct. There's places in the Middle East that they're still excavating and looking at and finding fossils and depictions of the same beings as Egypt and all the other places. It just keeps expanding. It's probably all over the earth. Yeah. Claudia?
Well, I was going to like as we know that we don't have to trust all the history, but as I was studying history with my son recently, as being his teacher, it is part of the map. It was expanded like pretty much from Asia to what they call Egypt, but Africa was part of it as well. The whole Africa, like all the way to the bottom, it was all part of it. So it was a big, 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 big. Egypt was all that, and it was cool. Now, recently, I had an encounter with someone else who's been studying Egypt through Rastafaris, and the Rastafari believed that the original name was changed. So original name of Egypt is Kemet, and we should spread the word that is Kemet. It's the original name of Egypt, and we have to spread it. I guess it's Kemte, but some place vowels are no, part of it, but it has to have an H somewhere. So I don't know. If we translate it, it might be Kemet, some H in between.
Well, when I typed in Kemet on my search engine, what came up was the first thing was Kemet, Egypt.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then
so that's the original name of the whole Egypt is Kemet.
let's see what it means.
Yeah.
Kemetism.
Rastafaris have a lot of information of this as well.
Kemet means black land.
Yes.
It refers to the
means.
fertile soil of the Nile Valley. I'm always weird with trusting Wikipedia, but yeah. Oh, cool. Sounds familiar. I don't know why I feel like I've heard that in books about the Anunnaki. All right. So I think we can continue. Let's continue with this next long section. All right. Where were we? I think we were Holy Land in the 8th dynasty. We read that. There we go. Okay. Continued. This young entity had been given a vibratory complex of sound which vibrated in honor of a prosperous god, as this mind-body-spirit complex, which we call instrument, so Carla, for convenience would call Amun. The entity decided that this name, being in honor of one among many gods, was not acceptable for inclusion in his vibratory sound complex. Thus, he changed his name to one which honored the sun disk. This distortion, called Aten, was a close distortion to our reality as we understand our own nature of mind-body-spirit complex distortion. However, it does not come totally into alignment with the intended teach-learning which was sent. This entity, Akhenaten, became convinced that the vibration of one was the true spiritual vibration and thus decreed the law of one. However, this entity's beliefs were accepted by very few. His priests gave lip service only without the spiritual distortion towards seeking. The peoples continued in their beliefs. When this entity was no longer in this density, again, the polarized beliefs in the many gods came into their own and continued so until the one known as Muhammad delivered the peoples into a more intelligible distortion of mind, body, spirit relationships. Do you have a more detailed interest at this time? It blows my mind that he doesn't go into everything he just shared here, but you have to think about Don in this situation. Don is just the questioner. And if I was Don at that time and I had heard this, I would have been like, wait, give me more details about Akhenaten and Muhammad and what do you mean by this? But he also has questions that he wanted to ask. And he also is in the middle of channeling, of receiving a channel. So it's not like he can just jump into a detailed question based on what he shared. Anyways, just wanted to clarify that. I did some research and I looked up what Aten meant. And Atenism was a religion in ancient Egypt. It was founded by Akhenaten, a pharaoh who ruled the New Kingdom under the 18th dynasty. The religion is described as monotheistic. Monotheistic, interesting. Let's see, wasn't there a section here in the 18th dynasty? Ooh, so the internet is also proving Ra correct. Thank you, internet. As a pharaoh, Akhenaten is noted for abandoning traditional ancient Egyptian religion of polytheism and introducing Atenism, or worship centered around Aten. When I looked this up, by the way, this is the picture I got. When I looked up Akhenaten, and I was really clicking around, I was trying to understand Atenism. I found this very interesting. Ra did say that once this person died, Akhenaten, quickly after they restored the Egyptian original belief in polytheism. And according to this article, it says subsequent pharaohs toppled the movement in the aftermath of Akhenaten's death, thereby restoring Egyptian civilization's traditional polytheistic religion. Large-scale efforts were then undertaken to remove from Egypt and Egyptian records any presence or mention of Akhenaten, Atenis temples, and assertions of a uniquely supreme god. Interesting. Huh. They've been doing this, censoring our media for how long now? Yes. Yes, Jasmine?
Hold on, I just want to check to make sure that I got all of this. So, Aten is a religion that was created in Egypt around the time period that Ra came in.
Atenism.
Atenism.
Yes.
Okay, the Aten religion. Okay, I see. So, Atenism, and it's monotheistic. And I suppose Ra spoke to Akhenaten and was like, you're one infinite creator, bringing monotheism to Egypt. But after he died, it just got abolished and was pretty much all information was destroyed or removed from Egypt, and they went back to their polytheistic ways of believing in the different polygods.
100%. Yes.
Okay, continue. That was
Yes. One thing we didn't say is Aten is a god depicted as the disk of the sun. So a solar deity is what they would call it. I looked up and it was monotheistic, this religion, Atenism, which is based off of a god, Aten, depicted as the disk of the sun. They said it was monotheistic, and I looked up and they said it's arguably henotheistic. And I looked up, and henotheism is the worship of a single supreme God that does not deny the existence or possible existence of other deities that may be worshipped. Interesting. I just thought that was really cool. It does not deny the existence of or possible existence of other deities that may be worshipped. And when you look up deities, let's see what it says. Gods. Supernatural being considered to be sacred and worthy of worship due to having authority over the universe, nature, or human life. I always see deities as aliens, basically. That's what I see them as.
I see them as angels.
Or angels, yes. Yes. Yes.
Juliana, I know that your hand was raised. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes.
I was just gonna mention that, for years, I've been doing this kind of research, trying to put the clues together. And recently, in the past few years, it has been mentioned to me, and I went into some deep meditation for it, that, that time of Aten was a time of our golden era, and there were a lot of council members of advanced beings, as I call them, whether you want to call them gods, goddesses, angels, whatever it is, were here to assist. And I think that there was it felt to me like there was some non-congruency with the energy and information amongst the peoples. And so that's what happened. And then they, became kind of destructive on some of those artifacts, the history, the energy. That's just to elaborate what you guys were elaborating. That's in the readings there. But from what I feel, and do some diving into that golden era that we talk about a lot, there's probably a few of them, but maybe one of them is that time of when the law of one was really prevalent here.
Yeah, so I think there's a golden era in Lemuria, Atlantis, and Egypt. So all of the major cycles within the master cycle. I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. We'll talk about what that means later, but I think the golden era really is about what you said. It's about a time where the culture advances to a point where they start showing signs of possibly enlightenment or being ready to receive the law of one, being ready to ascend and start seeing all as one. I'm not sure what it exactly means, but yeah, I know there's one in each of those. So I would say every era, we're in a golden era now, if you look at that, right? We definitely are. This is a time of awakening. Golden, I would see that as like golden is shining, enlightening, illuminating. Yeah. All right, Jaslyn.
My turn. 2.3. Questioner. We are very interested in the entire story that you have to tell and in getting into the law of one in quite some detail. There will be several questions that I'll ask as we go along that may or may not be related directly to understanding the law of one. However, I believe that the proper way of presenting this as a teach-learning vehicle to the population of the planet that will read it at this time is to investigate different facets of what you tell us. You spoke of crystal healing. One other thing I might mention is that when the instrument becomes fatigued, we want to cut off communication and resume it at a later time after the instrument is recharged. And if the instrument is suitable at this time, I would like a little discussion of the crystal healing that you mentioned. I am wrong. The principle of crystal healing is based upon an understanding of the hierarchical nature of the structure of the illusion, which is the physical body, as you would call it. There are crystals which work upon the energies coming into the spiritual body. There are crystals which work upon the distortions from spirit to mind. There are crystals which balance the distortions between the mind and the body. All of these crystal healings are charged through purified channels. Without the relative crystallization, which also means purification, of the healer working with the crystal will not be properly charged. So purification, another word for it is no blockages. So it's purified, it's been filtered out. So all of the distortions, specifically, we'll talk about this sooner or later at some point, about the 3 lower chakras, we have to fully purify those 3 as much as possible. The more purified that they are, the more that the river can flow through and connect to the energy of the crystal, and we become more crystallized ourselves. So we do the inner work and then we connect further with the outer work. The other ingredient is a proper alignment with the energy fields of the planet upon which you dwell. Proper alignment on the planet and the streamings which enter the planet. So one of the things, since we're in Ireland, one of the things that they talk about is that there's rivers underneath the ground that connect, and that brings up energy. If anyone's ever heard of Sedona as an example, they have like 7 or 8 different huge vortexes just in Sedona. So those are the energy fields of the planet. And Mount Shasta, as an example, is the root chakra of the planet. So we have different chakras on the planet that we can connect to, different parts of the world, such as pyramids or different ancestral sites that can bring energy fields to us. And the holistic or cosmic distortions or streamings which enter the planetary aura of the energy centers, perfect, in such a manner that an appropriate ratio of shapes and placement within these shapes is of indicated aid in the untangling or balancing process. To go through the various crystals to be used would be exhaustive to this instrument. You could look up crystals and their meanings all day long, although you may ask us if you wish in another session. The delicacy, shall we say, of the choosing of the crystal is very critical. And in truth, a crystalline structure such as a diamond or ruby can be used by a purified channel who is filled with the love and light of one in almost any application. So a structure like a diamond or a ruby, two popular stones for women rings, funny enough, and popular for necklaces and jewelry. So these are specifically diamond or ruby as an example, they say. So definitely those 2 and more can be used in any application between the mind, the body, the spirit, anything needed to purify if you yourself are purified. This, of course, takes initiation. And there have never been many to preserve to the extent progressing through the various distortions leaving which initiation causes. Can you click the little comment button, hun?
Yes.
You got something on initiation for us? Not many people have the dedication to go through all the challenges and changes that come with initiation. Do you know what initiation they're talking about exactly, Yui?
Yes. Initiation. ACIM calls this atonement. An initiate could be what ACIM calls the Christ. So what is initiation? It's crystallization. So an initiation is someone that is willing to be purified as a channel of love light. And it says it here. Where did it say?
My assumption, Juliana, is that your filter is correct. Crystallization means both physical, I would also add mental and spiritual purity. So
Yeah.
mind, body, spirit.
Yeah, to be purified
Yeah.
in your physical, you need to be purified mentally. And you can't be purified mentally if you're not purified spiritually. They're all one in the same.
Exactly.
We are a mind, body, spirit complex, all 3. Yeah. So let's look up what initiation means according to Ra. So in a concept guide, this is one of my favorite books. There it is. There are many initiations through which one moves in their natural growth patterns, including those universal initiations of birth, puberty, marriage, or child rearing, old age, etc. Ra speaks of initiation as a process and a means whereby the mind-body-spirit complex becomes a purified or initiated channel for the law of one. The mind, the body, and the spirit may individually or collectively move through an initiation. Such an initiated person may then channel the love light of the one infinite creator through the gateway in order to be of service. Whether that service be radiance of being, the magical working of indigo ray, the communication of blue ray, or the healing of green ray. Though there are big initiations which produce, as Ra describes it, resurrection, a person is likely to move through multiple initiations during the course of their incarnation. Each initiation may be characterized generally by stating that a threshold is crossed that delineates the former experience from the new. Whoa. Each initiation may be characterized generally by stating that a threshold is crossed that delineates the former experience from the new. So if any of you have gone through any spiritual awakenings, I would consider that an initiation, especially one in which you are conscious. You have been calling, you have been seeking, and maybe you go through a dark night of the soul, but at some point, after you cross a line and you move to the next side of that catalyst, there is a new experience that is different from the previous experience of being. You feel more joyful, more connected, more loving, more empathetic, more understanding, more forgiving. This may transpire in a moment or over a long period of time. There is often a challenge or difficulty associated with the crossing of the threshold and some measure of will and faith needed. For some, this may manifest as a dark night of the soul. There we go. I just said that. Through initiation, a deeper recognition of the self is gained, lessons are learned and or tested, and those distortions which are no longer needed fall away. All right. I think we're clear there. Good job. Would you like to continue, Bella?
Sure. May we further inform you in any fairly brief way upon this or another subject? Would you like me to read 2.4, honey?
Sure.
2.4. Questioner. Yes. You mentioned that the pyramids were an outgrowth of this. Could you expand a little bit on, were you responsible for the building of the pyramid? And what was the purpose of the pyramid? I am wrong. The larger pyramids were built by our ability using the forces of one. So Star Wars, the Force. The stones are alive. It has not been so understood by the mind, body, spirit complex distortions of your culture. The purpose of the pyramids were two. Firstly, to have a properly oriented place of initiation for those who wish to become purified or initiated channels for the law of one. So a place for beings or us, little identity form, mind, body, spirit complexes walking around to go into the pyramid and have an awakening, to be able to experience something that completely changes them from that day forth. 2. We wish then to carefully guide the initiations in developing a healing of the people whom they sought to aid and the planet itself, to heal themselves and the planet as well as everyone around them. Pyramid after pyramid, charged by the crystal and initiate, were designed to balance the incoming energy of the one creation with the many and multiple distortions of the planetary mind, body, spirit. In this effort, we were able to continue work that brothers within the Confederation had effected through building of other crystal-bearing structures, and thus complete a ring, if you will, of these about the Earth's, as this instrument would have us vibrate it, surface. So they created a ring of other Confederation-created pyramids on planet Earth, on the surface of Earth.
Yeah, and if you there's a documentary about the pyramids. Can't quote me on the actual name, but it does talk about how all the pyramids line up on a line across the earth, which is crazy if you think about it, creating a ring around the earth or an energy field.
Is it kind of like a crop circle, but in pyramid forms?
Crop circle in pyramid forms? What do you mean?
You know, like they're putting a symbol on the planet to open and initiate even the
Oh.
planet itself as a whole.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what came up for me. Interesting.
If you remember that documentary, let me know. I'd love to watch it.
I think it's called the Pyramid Code. Let me verify that. It's amazing. The Pyramid Code. There's a
On
few.
Gaia?
Jason Shirka? No, that's not the one. The Pyramid Code. Is it on Gaia? Yes, this might be it. Yes, this is the one. There's a few others. I'm 99% certain this is it, but if it's not, there's one more I will put in the group when I remember. This one talks about the band of peace, high level technology, sacred cosmology. It's a great documentary. Goes into how the pyramids were built, how they were in alignment with the stars, the times. It's great. Continue. This last
This
part.
instrument begins to lose energy. We ask for one more query or subject, and then we shall take our leave for this time space.
2.5. Questioner. You might mention that there was originally a capstone on the pyramid at the top. What was it made of, and how you moved the heavy blocks to build the pyramid? What technique was used? I am Ra. I request that we ask this question in our next work time, as you would term the distortion sharing that our energies produce. I request that you ask it in the next working session, which is what you call it. If you have any questions about the proper use of this mind, body, spirit complex, we would appreciate your asking them now. He goes on. Question.
I thought this was funny because in the audiobook, Jim was like, consider them asked.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what to ask at this point. So like, can you just tell me what I need to ask?
Yeah, please
So
tell me.
consider them asked. I mean, I don't have anything to go on. What is the proper use of this instrument? What should we do to maximize our ability to comfort, rejuvenation, etc.? I can only imagine that moment. I am
Listen to
Ra.
Raw. That's what we could do. Listen to Raw, like you say. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. I am Ra. We are pleased that you asked this question. Yay. For it is not our understanding that we have the right/duty to share our perceptions on any subject but philosophy without direct question. However, this mind-body-spirit complex is not being correctly used and therefore is experiencing unnecessary distortions of body in the area of fatigue. The vibrations may well be purified by a simple turning to the circle of one and the verbal vibration while doing so of the following dialogue. This is what we say in the beginning of each of the sessions. This is where we get it from, or right here. Question: what is the law? Answer: the law is one. Question: why are we here? Answer: we seek the law of one. Why do we seek Ra? Ra is a humble messenger of the law of one. Rejoice then together, rejoice then and purify this place in the law of one. Let no thought form enter the circle we have walked about this instrument, for the law is one. So this is their protective circle, kind of like at any other ceremonial setting. It's beautiful.
Has
The
anyone
instrument
here,
at this time.
before we continue, has anyone here read the Law of One before coming in? Can you type 1 in the chat if you have before coming in?
You mean like completely?
Yeah. Okay, so Jason has 3 times. Okay. From what I can see, no one has. No, this is the first time entirety. Okay. All right. Well, you'll understand later why this is so incredibly important. Unless you have read the full circle, you do not understand fully why they needed to put the instrument here, put the protection there, put her in a white robe, do the circle of one, make sure we challenge every contact, make sure we're tuning the contact, make sure we're not tiring out the instruments. But at some point, you'll realize that because they channeled such a light being, such a radiant light being, that because the universe works in balance, it attracted the complete opposite polarity. Ooh, what does that mean? Ooh, we'll talk about it later.
Definitely comes up later.
Yes.
The instrument at this time should be in trance. The proper alignment is the head pointed 20 degrees north by northeast. This is the direction from which the newer or new age distortions of love light, which are less distorted, are emanating from, and this instrument will find comfort therein. So, just a heads up for us who are walking this planet, at any point, if you're feeling off, just look north by northeast, which is where the energy of love light is coming from,
Less
emanating,
distorted.
coming from,
Well,
which
they're
is
coming
less
from
distorted.
everywhere. They're always
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
from everywhere, but it's less distorted in this region. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious if that's throughout like anywhere that we are on the planet, or if it's in particularly where they were. Where was they were in Kentucky, if I remember correctly,
Mhm.
or Philadelphia or something like that.
Louisville, yeah.
Kentucky.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm curious if it was like maybe that part of that energy center in North by Northeast. Maybe we can look that up. So it could be two. So we'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I looked
This
this
is-
up and I couldn't find anything specific as to what this made this special. I thought it was East, like the East is more China or more China, India, and their Hindu traditions. They often are more illuminated than the Western region, but it said
There is
north
an energy center there.
north by northeast. So
Mm,
I'm not exactly sure. I looked
we're
it
gonna
up.
have
I
to.
couldn't find anything. So
Yeah. Curiouser and curiouser. This is a sensitive instrument, by which we mean the distortions which enter her mind body spirit complex come from any of her senses. So, God knows how many senses we have yet. Thus, it is well to do the following. Place at the entity's head a virgin chalice of water. To the center, the book most closely aligned with the instrument's mental distortions, which are allied more closely with the law of one, that being the Bible that she touches most frequently. To the other side of the Bible, a small amount of sense or incense in a virgin censer. To the rear of the book, symbolizing one, open to the Gospel of John, chapter 1, a white candle. The instrument would be strengthened by the wearing of a white robe. The instrument shall be covered and prone, the eyes covered. Look how Ra is setting up the situation so that she is completely, I get chills, completely surrounded northeast, southwest, that she's facing a specific way in the room, that she's wearing something in particular. All of this is to help with the purification and with the guidance of light so that they can find her easier to do the channeling and to eliminate other beings from contacting her and taking over Ra's place. We feel that, though this is a complex of activities / circumstance and may seem very distorted from a purposeful teach-learning experience, these elaborations on the techniques of trance will ease the mind distortions of those about the instrument as they perceive improvement in the instrument's distortions with regard to fatigue. So she continues to experience fatigue for whatever reason after these calls. It's only session 2 right now, but they're hoping to eliminate that or at least remove it slightly by creating these activities around her and helping her purify. We add only that if these teach learning sessions are held during time space during which your sun body does not light your room, that it is best to call the instrument before the lighting of the illuminatory mechanism. So they're saying before, during your sun body does not light your room. So after dark, they're saying to do it in the morning while there's still sun out. Did I get that correct, honey? What do you think?
well, they
Or the
said
lighting of the illuminatory mechanism.
we add only that
Interesting
if
wording.
these teach learning sessions are held. So if these sessions are held during a time during which your sun body, your sun, does not light your room, that it is best to call the instrument before the lighting of the illuminatory mechanism. So let's translate
Oh,
for a
so
second.
to call Carla back into her body
During a time when the
before
sun
nighttime.
doesn't light the room, it is best to call Carla before the lighting of the candle. So they're saying call her name before you light the candle if there's no actual natural sunlight.
Oh, wow, that's very specific. Interesting. Okay, so the illuminatory mechanism is the candle itself. Got it. So I am Ra. I leave you in the glory and the peace of the one creator. Rejoice in the love light and go forth in the power of the one creator. Enjoy, we leave you. Adonai. Like what, an hour? What time is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
an
an
hour. We get to do session 3. Yay.
Okay. So let's do a quick review of what we learned here. We covered some big topics here. First, pyramids. Whoa. I don't know if this blows your mind, but we just learned that the most sophisticated complex structure on the planet that still holds up to this day was built by Ra. Wow. Mind blowing. So I'm sure soon we're going to learn that. We also learned that their first visit in Egypt distorted greatly the people that they were trying to influence due to their naivete. They believe, since they're these loving, kind beings from Venus, that if they came to Egypt, which was their first visit here, which not their first visit, but it was one of their last visit here, they thought that if they introduced themselves to Egypt and showed up in their normal form, that it would not cause any distortion or create problems. And they realized this is a big mistake. It created a lot of distortion because the elite used the information of the law of one, for power. Does that sound any familiar today at all? Yeah. Oh, so they've been doing it since Ra's time? Yes. When there's a distortion for power, a hunger for power, power is unquenchable, as we'll soon learn. What else did we talk about, my love?
But I'm looking up Kabbalah to see where it came from because I'm curious of if I'm having a question in my head. Give me a minute. I'll be back.
Okay. I did want to acknowledge something. Joanna said Robert Edward Grant is a pyramid math and law of one teacher and covers the layout of the pyramids surrounding the earth as we and Mother Earth ascended. Ooh, Robert Edward Grant. I think my friend's working with him right now. What's his name? Aaron? I think Aaron's working with Robert Edward Grant. Yeah, polymathic life propelled by intention. What does that even mean? We gotta work on his marketing here. I gotta.
Sorry about it. But it's sacred geometry. That's the sacred geometry art, right?
That'd be awesome if I just saw that here. I have no idea what that means. Polymathic life propelled intention. Very cool though. Oh, he's on Gaia. Nice. Think tank. Oh, great. Oh, this is good.
Yeah,
We'll
he's sacred geometry guy.
yes, we'll add it to the list. Thank you, Joanna. Also, there's something I didn't mention as we were reading this book. In the end of 2.2, when this entity was no longer in this density, meaning this Akhenaten had died, the polarized beliefs of the many gods came into their own. So Egypt again undertook the belief in many gods versus just the one law of one, the one infinite creator, and continued so until the one known as Muhammad delivered the peoples into a more intelligible distortion of mind, body, spirit relationships. So I think this is important to clarify here. You're probably wondering, like, is Ross saying that Islam was delivering the people? Well, Muhammad was way less distorted than what modern Muslims are today. First of all, he was the original creator of it, so of course it's less distorted. And if you look up the meaning of Allah, Allah in Islam translates to one true God. I asked my dad this. I said, Baba, what does Allah mean? And he says, of course, it means the one true God. I was like, okay. So what I read is true. My dad's Muslim, a devout Shiite. And I thought that was interesting because one true God, one infinite creator. I see. Not saying that it's perfect, the belief in Islam. As we will see with every religion, it brings distortions and people mistranslate things and they misconstrue parables and teachings from old times. But it is nice to know that it was in the original, in the beginning, more closely aligned with the law of one. So yeah. Yes, Claudia.
So what is my understanding, because it's starting with my son too, there's a part where they talk that Islam was brought to Asia. and in Africa as well, like at the south of Africa. And then they spoke how peaceful it was accepted. So for a long time, and they called it the golden age. It was the Islam, it was accepted and it was spread it out, and it was so peaceful. So it might be the same. So just putting the dots together.
Can you say that again about the golden age? That ties
Yeah, that's a golden age. They call it, was around the Silky Road.
Oh, the
Silky
Silk Road. The Silk Road, yeah.
The Silk, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, the Silk Road. But when they, because of the Silk Road, they brought the different other religions or philosophies, right, around that area, and they was for it was, well, at least in the history that they are learning, is that the Islam was spread out that way, and it was taken with a lot of peace, and it created a lot of peace when the Islam was in those lands.
Ah. Yeah, so back in the day, from what I'm remembering from history, it was very much a polytheistic way of seeing the world, religion, way of seeing the world, many gods, many deities, until Islam came. And what you're saying is when Islam came, it brought a great peace. Obviously, there was something that happened between Christians and Muslims, and they're like, no, ours is right, and no, ours is right, that created war. But it's nice to know that there was some peace based on this philosophy of the one true God, or the one infinite creator, regardless of the distortions that are created later on. Thank you, Claudia. I'm going to put on my headphones here just to see if I can hear everyone better, because I'm not hearing perfectly. My audio for a second. I know it might not sound that great right now. My microphone, I'm going to change it to here. Oh, I can't change. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Is
You
it
do
better
have
without?
you
Yes.
do have the headphone thing. Or no? Is it off?
Can't change
You
the
sound good.
speaker or the microphone,
Okay.
so I'll take them out.
You sound good, I think.
All right.
Okay.
Next, I think it's your turn, Chess.
Bring it on.
All right, we're on
Take me
session.
to my number.
Really quickly before we dive into the next part, let's read some of these comments here. Let's see. Oh, hey, Wendy. Oh, good. Good to see you there. Good. It was fine. Okay, good. Just wanted to clarify that. Does anyone have any questions about what we learned so far?
In session 2.
Session 2. Pyramids
Crystal healing.
and crystal healing. No need to raise your hand.
Baptism.
Unmute and dive in. Hey, Kitty. Darcy's cat.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
I don't remember where it was, but we were talking about balancing. You could do the mind, body, spirit. You could either do at one at a time or all together.
Oh, yes.
And my question, I guess, is I've found in my life that I can't seem to get them all together at the same time when I really focus on kind of my spirit or my body goes out of whack, and then I get really tight in my body, and then you know what I mean? I can't really seem to mesh them all together. And I know it said it doesn't matter, like what you can do one or the other, but it feels like it's like this balance that I continuously can't can maintain. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Any
So
any kind of advice on that would be great.
I can't give you advice, but let's
Oh,
start.
okay.
Let's start with the language part. So you said I cannot. So how old are
Yeah.
you right now, Darcy? I don't know, in your 20s or 30s. So you have another
Yes.
70 years.
Yes, that's
Okay.
how old I am.
Which
Let's go with
means
23.
okay, 23. That means you have another 80 year statistic or 60 years statistically, which means when you say I cannot, you have now defined your entire life. So what you could say is
Yeah.
in the past, I couldn't XYZ. So
Yeah.
you couldn't balance all together. Let's first find the phrase because I don't want to give any advice. I'd like Raw
Yeah.
share what Raw says. So let's say we are looking for, I think here it was, I think it was about the initiation.
Yeah.
And it said spirit, right? Or mind to spirit. Let's look up the word spirit. Whoops. Well, it's like 50 times in here, so. Let's go up a little bit. Oh. There are crystals which work upon the energies coming into the spiritual body. There are crystals which work upon the distortions from spirit to mind. There are crystals which balance the distortions between the mind and the body. All of these crystals, is that what you were referring to?
I can't remember. I
Oh.
just remember when it was somewhere talking about and you could do one alignment at a time or all of them together, and my mind just went to, oh gosh, I really feel, maybe I even had it wrong. I don't know because I don't have the book in front of me and I can't scroll back what you're reading. I should have written a note down about it, but anyway,
Well,
it's not important.
You brought it up, so it must be important to you, which means it's important to all of us. Okay. Well, Darcy, I know that you were there at the Become the Creator retreat. So do you remember what the 3 disciplines of the personality are?
Know thyself, love thyself, become the creator.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, for the situation that you just brought up, you feel like you're either working your mind, body, or spirit, and it's been this tango game of which one's going to be next, right? That was the vibe I got. How
Yeah.
can you accept it?
How can what?
Can you accept that?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I got to a point where I was last in the, a few years prior to just the December 1st, actually, I'm very able to notice it happening, like the changes, let's say, in my body. I had gotten my body to this attunement place that I felt for like 2 years. It was amazing. And then I started more into my spiritual work. And then it just changed my body. And I watched it happen. And I felt like I wasn't even part of it, if that makes sense. And it's just an unbalancing. And I wonder if it's my ego's kind of last ditch efforts of
Okay.
holding on, that's what comes to me anyway.
Can you love it?
Darcy,
Yeah.
this is Joanna. What I might offer when we're talking about the crystals in the Law of One, I'm a massage therapist and I've always been interested in crystals. I use them a lot in healing. I'm also a Rosicrucian, and we looked a lot at not just the Hermetic principles, but have you heard of the crystal skull?
No, I have a lot of crystals, but I have to say I don't feel a lot of vibratory, like I guess maybe other people do, but
And
strangely, yeah.
Kind of that's what I wanted to bring up was that, and I don't know if I shared in the WhatsApp chat, the Patricia Cota Robles and where we are now in our ascension, because we are ascending to our 5th dimensional crystalline body, which encompasses mental, physical, emotional, and etheric. So even if you feel frustrated, with things seeming to be out of balance, what I offered to you is there's so many people, including the Law of One, including the Violet Flame, Saint Germain, pretty much everyone's looking at the same thing. We're all ascending to that 5th dimensional crystalline body. And, you don't really need to worry so much, whereas before you had to do the initiation, you had to do the cleansing, you had to make sure you were clean from the first three chakras below. And I'm not saying you don't have to do the discipline, but what I'm offering is we are at that phase right now where the beings, Ra, I'm sure, they're pulling for us to ascend fully and as one. So they are actually sending those downloads. And I think I talked about a download I got a couple of days ago, and it was really powerful. It still has me off center, where I don't know, my words are all clear at this point, but the clarity comes. But where it offers that, whereas before you had to really work hard to get to a certain level of ascension, we are already at that tipping point, the 49, almost 50%, where as a mass consciousness, your mental, physical, spiritual, etheric, emotional bodies will start to balance you. And the more you concentrate on that, and I know we learned that from ACIM, you're actually creating more of a distortion. You're saying, well, this is what's wrong with me, or this is what I'm lacking. And I'm not just saying it's you, because we're all in this right now. We're, this mass consciousness and then the individuated person that we are. And I don't want to go too much further because, like I said, I'm still not clear on it. But what really gave me hope and inspiration was that we've reached that level where we don't have to work so hard. And the more we let it go and just affirm, I think Aaron talks about positive denial and of affirmation and of who we really want to be, or who we need to remember who we are. Anyway, this isn't part of Raw,
Yeah.
but
No, that's perfect. That actually is part of Raw. Just to tie it together, Joanna. I love it. Thank you. That was absolutely stunning and so beautiful. You said it in a way that really hit home with me.
but I love you, Darcy. I see who you are. And just breathe, let go, and know who you are. You are the beloved child of Mother, Father, God. And all these beings, Ra and the galactic being, there are those beings that Ra's and I really want to find out about those beings that Ra's talking about, because I've seen that in other teachings of people who don't want this Earth experiment to succeed. And that's why they're creating the ring. That's why we have the purple, the violet flame. I'm in love with where we are right now. And just thank you. That's enough said.
Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you, Joanna. So just what Jasmine was saying, I think she was making a good point, was, can you love it? And regardless of any distortions that are happening or blockages, or what am I held up in, what energy centers are messed up, where am I lacking, where am I angry, what are my past traumas? The answer is always one thing: acceptance and love. Always acceptance and love. And what Joanna is saying is that we're in the fourth density now, and now we're moving into the fifth. And so regardless of our distortions or blockages or what have you, we're all moving up anyways. So do we need to spend so much time and energy focusing on how do I unblock, or how do I unblock? Or could we just realize, hey, we're all moving into more unity. I'm just here to love. So can I love that blockage, distortion? I think I understood what your question was, and I don't think we really
Yeah.
touched into it, but you were saying mind, body, spirit, they're not all in alignment. I don't think you were talking specifically about the energy centers, but what I wanted you to understand is your body will follow your mind will follow your body. Your spirit will follow your mind will follow your spirit, your body will follow your spirit, and vice versa. They will all work together. So you figure out what works best for you. What I like to do is I like to take my body, I like to use my mind to tell my body what to feel. And when my body now feels differently, my mind feels differently. My mind and my body feel differently. Of course, my spirit feels differently as well. But just so you know, the way the raw material sees things is nothing is outside of spirit. Everything is spirit. Everything.
Yeah.
So if you want to just
May I-
straight to that, then boom, you're there, right? But not giving you advice or anything. I think Claudia wants to add something, and then Juliana, and then we'll jump back.
Yeah, may I share? So there's some semi understanding that regardless where we at this point, is still people going, the whole planet is already in the 4D. That's why some people's like, oh, I'm dizzy, I have this, I have that, I feel this way, I feel that way, I feel sick, and because there are no in the work, they don't know what it is. But at the end of the day, my understanding is like we're all going to be like raising those vibrations, regardless we are awakened. Sorry about that. Awakened or not, we're already there. So what it is like there's two concepts that I was reviewing last week, and it was one is the submission and one's the surrender. Submission is when you give your power away. Surrender is when you cannot control anything, you have to let go. And then that's the surrender right there. So my invitation to you is just to surrender. As you don't want to be in this pull back and forth with, is this my body? Is this my mind? It is my spirit. What it is that I need to be working in at the first time. So just to surrender on that. So that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that I do this kind of work with my clients, and I help them to come back into alignment with their mind, body, spirit complex through a few different tools, but I'm getting intuitively and psychically that you may need to realign daily your inner compass, which is that intuitive spirit-led energy, and make a real decision of I'm hearing like, say, how can I be of the highest service to others? And I'm feeling psychically like that's some pathway that will help you.
That's kind of how, that's my jam. That's what I do every day. I feel like is how can I serve? Like, I feel like I've got that down pat. That's kind of my mantra, like in every moment.
I would do it as like I'm really hearing strongly for you to understand and meditate and contemplate, however you do it, through walking, through drawing, through just closing your eyes and breathing, to understand that we all have like an inner compass of where we are to go with our work. And that we do, most people who are in service to others have this inner compass that they are being led by. And it turns on for different people at different times based on when we need that particular individual to put their pieces of the puzzle together. So you need to really ask your higher self to come in daily and to really, ground, anchor, and center that light into the body so that you can have that purity to walk you, to guide you. Sometimes we feel like puppets, right? So we want to make sure that our channels are working correctly in the field of where we're at. So, and really trust. I'm hearing trust for you is like very important. Trust your instincts are aligned correctly with what feels good. So just a
Thank
few tips.
you. Thank you.
So poetic. Thank you,
for
Juliana.
something.
One thing I appreciate you from Juliana is that you said I'm getting something is telling me to tell you. And we're gonna learn that that preserves free will. Because when we give advice, so be careful, Darcy, you're telling people to tell you how to use your free will. When you're like, hey, can I get some advice? I think the next thing I'm gonna say to someone that says, can I get some advice? Is I would say, what would your higher self say? If you were gonna ask Aaron Abke that question, what would he say? That's one of my favorite things to do. Because I've been talking to Aaron even before I met him. And I would ask him questions and then I would get an answer and I'm like, thanks, man. And I would pretend as if it was him. But it was really just my own intuition. So what Juliana said there, like trusting your intuition, I resonate with that. Yes, I wanted to acknowledge all of you for being here and sharing and showing up. We have a few people that I didn't acknowledge earlier. Trish, Milada, is that how you say her name? I think I said your name wrong last time, so I apologize. Nick, lighting, the mushroom guy. Yes, he loves to go foraging. He's gonna take me and Jazz on foraging soon. Hey, man.
I actually just started cooking some chicken in the woods right now, so I'm listening as I'm cooking. So
Nice. Oh, I saw you pick those, man. They taste like chicken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Chicken of the what? Chicken of the woods?
chicken of the woods.
Chicken of the woods. Yes, we know a strange as they're delicious. Can't wait to try them. Thanks for being here, man. Thank you.
Bet.
Great to see you. Yes. Trish, I know you're there. I can't see you, but I love you and I'm with you. Thank you for being here and talking about oneness with us. So we have, there you are. Hello. Hi.
Beautiful, guys.
Great to see you. Yes. All right. We are back. Can everyone see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Great being in a group full of a bunch of light workers. This is epic. All right, session 3. Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. I communicate with you now. My first question is, did we correctly perform the ritual for starting the communication? I am Ra. The placement of the artifacts designed to balance the instrument should be placed at the instrument's head for the least distortion of effect. So least distortion of effect, basically so that there's no twisting or messing up of the love being passed through or the light being passed through from Ra. The remainder of the beginning account of purpose is quite acceptable for those speaking desire to serve. Otherwise, the attendant emphasis and mind complexities would not have been affected properly. We caution you to guard against those who are not wishing to serve others above all else from taking part in the beginning or in lending their distortions of mind, body, spirit complex to any session, as we should then be unable to properly blend our distortions with those of this instrument. Here's what I heard from this. We caution you to guard against those who are not positive from taking part in the beginning or in the lending of their twisted ideas of being a human to any session. As we should, and if that happens, we would be unable to properly blend our perspective with those of this instrument. By the way, when I see distortions, at times I see twisting, at times I see perception, at times I see projection. I see them all as the same. So when you see distortion, I want you to picture a golden crystal, or I'm sorry, not a golden crystal, a clear crystal, quartz, a perfect round sphere. And in that sphere is shining radiant light. That radiant light, you can call it the love light of the one infinite creator. love. That's the feeling of that light. Let's say you poke a hole in that sphere. What happens? It twists the light. It changes it. Does that make sense? It distorts it. It twists things. When the infinite creator is shining its light through us, our perspective, aka projection, from what Course in Miracles calls it, our projection distorts that light. You can see it as the light coming through, and then there's a poked hole. And that poked hole is my opinion, my belief, my values, the way I see the world. That is not negative. That is not positive. All perspectives, all projections, all opinions, beliefs, values, needs, goals, ambitions, desires, fears, limitations, all that, all those distortions are neither positive nor negative. Distortions are distortions. Everything is a distortion. Everything that is not pure, radiant love light of the one infinite creator is a distortion. So when you see that, and he's talking about, let's caution you against people that don't want you to take, beings that don't want you to take part of this, that don't want this to happen because they're lending their projection to the session. And if they do, we cannot blend our perspective with those of Carla. By the way, because they're speaking through Carla, they can only see, or they can only speak in the language that Carla would speak. That's why they chose an intellect. They chose someone who is very intuitive as well. She's really intelligent. She's a librarian her whole life, and she was really intuitive. And she was really good at meditating and thus channeling. So they, being a social memory complex from Venus, only have her perspective to be able to communicate through. So they're already having a hard enough time as it is to speak to us because they only have our human language and Carla's language and understanding. So they don't need anything to get in the way of this channeling. Does that make sense? So again, they're cautioning us. That's why we do the circle of one. All right, I'm rambling here now. Yes, Juliana?
I think I may have answered my own question, but I'm just making sure that, you know, you had mentioned, and I'm very aware that anything that is not of the law of one, that doesn't resonate with the infinite intelligence of the one creator, is a distortion. So would oneness be a part of that infinite intelligence of creator? Is oneness the same as the law of one?
Yes.
Is what I'm asking.
Yeah. It's another, I think you said it actually, one of the first sessions, you said the law of oneness. And that's what I called it first before.
Oh,
I
okay.
call it the law of oneness. Yeah, it resonated for me. Yeah.
Because I know all words have, you know, various vibration, and I'm just making sure that I'm really clear with that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. I might exchange the words oneness, unity, law of one, God, the infinite, the one infinite creator, the creator, love, light, love. Any of those words, intelligent infinity, any of those words to me mean that perfect radiant light, the original. And then as we're going to learn, when the original decided to know itself, it split itself into these little distortions known as Yusuf and Jaslyn and Juliana and Darcy and Joanna and Nelson. And we bring our own distortions along with that. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Oh, this is so exciting. Jaslyn, my love, would you like to take the next one? Or comments?
Should I move the Bible, candle, and incense at this time? I am wrong. This would be appropriate. I love these short ones. And he's just like, yes. Question. After moving the items, is this the proper position? I am wrong. Please correct the angle of the incense that it is perpendicular to the plane of 20 degrees north by northeast. I'd love to know how to figure that out. 3.4. After making the correction, is this satisfactory? Wrong. Please check by your eye to make fine correction. We will explain the process by which this becomes a significant distortion balancer. The incense acts as energizer to the physical body of this instrument. Get down a bit, honey. And Stephanie, let's see. The incense acts as energizer to the physical body of this instrument, signifying its humanity. This is therefore a necessity that the wafted smoke is perceived from the same relative angle as the instrument perceives the opened Bible, balanced by the lighted candle signifying love light and light love, and therefore give the mental and emotional, shall we call it, distortion complex of this instrument the sight of paradise and peace which it seeks. Thus, energized from the lower to the higher, the instrument becomes balanced and does not grow fatigued. So it's re-explaining why it's putting things in certain orders, why it's 23 degrees to north by northeast, and the different energizers to the body so they won't be fatigued. We appreciate your concern for this will enable our teach learning to proceed more easily. Does it appear correctly aligned now? I judge it within limits of acceptability. So it's not, but it'll work for now.
Jaslyn, do you mind if I
Yes.
chime in really quickly?
Go ahead.
So it says the incense acts as an energizer to the physical body of the instrument. So acts as an energizer to Carla. Who here has ever smelt peppermint? You ever heard you ever smelt it? Yeah. Have you ever smelled so I would say peppermint. If I smell peppermint right now, I feel a sense of like, whoo, I don't know, an energy. When I smell lavender, contrastly, I'll feel more relaxed. So smell is powerful. It's actually one of the most powerful. It is the most powerful of all our senses. If we can associate something to smell, it is super powerful. There's actually coaches that will teach people to sniff one of these vapes or one of these incense chapstick looking things. It's a smell to trigger a state. So for the energizer, smell was used. They'd place the Bible at an angle, the candle at an angle, therefore giving the mental and emotional, shall we call it, distortion complex of this instrument, the sight of paradise and peace which it seeks. So the candle and the wafted smoke along with the Bible gave Carla a sense of peace. That's what you needed to be in a deep trance and accept a 6th density social memory complex. So what I wanted to share here, I shared this with you is because I think it's important we understand just how sophisticated this channeling is. It's not just it's not conscious channeling. To get this message across through Carla, things had to be perfect. And as a 6th density social memory complex, what they want more than anything is balance. That's why they're using the incense, the Bible, the candle at a certain angle. Because the message is that important and they did not want any distortions. All right, 3.5. Just wanted to clarify that. Juliana, did you have a question?
By Bible, they mean like Ra means an actual book or writing that is sacred to us, right?
So yes. So if you were to, are you saying if for you, it would be,
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I would put the Law of One here because it gives me that sense of like trust for me. I know some people that would put A Course in Miracles there or the Bible or a channeled text from another, like the Bhagavad Gita, for example.
Right.
Yeah. All right, 3.5. Jaslyn.
Does it appear correctly aligned now? I judge it within limits of acceptability. Questioner. At the last session, we had 2 questions we were saving for the session. One having to do with the possible capstones of the Great Pyramid at Giza, the other with how you move the heavy blocks. I know these questions are of no importance at all with respect to the Law of One, but it was my judgment, which you may correct, that this would provide an easy entry for the reader of the material. We are very grateful for your contacts and will certainly take suggestions about how we should proceed with this. This is just one guess. Just to mention, this is session 3. So imagine being the questioner yourself and having this huge entity come and have this amazing trance experience and trying to figure out what questions to ask it. And then after session 1 being like, we should write a book about this. This is so absolutely incredible. And like, but okay, well, if somebody's picking up this book, what are they going to want to know about? Well, first off, we need to question. We need to question this entity to make sure that the information that it's sharing with us is actual fact, and why do they want to share before we get into information about what their philosophy is at the end of the day. That's how I would do it. And I'm very happy that they did it this way too.
Yes, well said, Jacqueline. Well said. I thought the same thing because that's what attracted me to this originally, was I was so into pyramids for some reason, and I was always into Greek Egyptian mythology. So I found this to be like, oh, they're gonna talk about the pyramids. I'll read this book. Sure, that's what really got me in. And then the whole unity, oneness, love, light, forgiveness part was just like the best cherry on top, right? So I love that they did this. I did want to clarify the capstone. A pyramidion is the capstone. That's what that is, of an Egyptian pyramid, or the upper section of an obelisk, which is a pointed pillar. So you can just picture another tiny pyramid on top. It was made of gold, actually. I did some research on what that pyramidion is. It was made of gold, or I'm not even sure. It could be made of gold or silver or pure quartz crystal covered in gold. If you do any research on the capstone, for some reason, it's no longer there. I don't know why. If you look at the pyramid, it's no longer there. I felt like that is an interesting point, that the top of it, the part that was made of a different material, that was perfect, that went on top, is no longer present. How does that thing just disappear like that? I always found that interesting. And that's what made me think aliens made it. Aliens created the pyramids. And here we find out that yes, they did. Yes, continue, Jaslyn.
Beautiful. I am wrong. I would not suggest the proper series of questions. This is your prerogative as free agent of the law of one, having understood that our social memory complex is not cannot effectually discern the distortion of the societal mind-body-spirit complex of your peoples. We wish now to fulfill our teacher and honor responsibility by answering what is asked. This only will suffice, for we cannot plumb the depths of the distortion complexes which infect your peoples. I love that they use the word infect. It's like, just makes me think of, zombies, or some kind of a specific distortion that is shared in the global consciousness of this planet, which we have many distortions that we share as a global consciousness. Okay.
If you didn't understand that, on the right side, it says, I can't tell you what questions to ask. It is up to you to decide, as you have free will under the law of one. We can't fully understand the complex issues of your society. Our job is to answer your questions as best as we can, but we can't deeply understand all the problems affecting your people.
So if what he's saying about the infect, I see the question in the chat. So who is he infected? It's not that Ra is infecting anyone. He's saying that the infection is already here, and the infection could be, I assume, another version of distortion, but specifically one not just from the distortion of the mind-body-spirit complex of the person itself in an identity I format, but more of the universal ego, which are the universal distortions of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah. When I read this part, it said we cannot plumb the depths of the distortion complexes which infect your people. What I took that as understanding is we cannot plumb the depths of your mind. We're not allowed. I can't go, because of free will, I cannot be you and be every single human to understand what the society is like from their point of view. That would be an abridgment of free will. I cannot do that. So I cannot see it from your perspective. So you have to tell me your questions to me so that I can answer this, because again, I cannot not honor your free will. And that's the difference you'll see between positive and negative contacts, is the honoring of free will. It is that specific.
And they're also not in a body on this planet. So obviously a body in the planet would understand better the distortions of the planet compared to a sixth sense being that is way up there. Like, how do I even get? Okay.
Yeah.
So the
We are
first
lucky
question,
because Ra did visit us. So Ra does feel what we felt at that time and saw what we saw at that time, but only for a very short time.
Which has completely different distortions than it has now. So the first question, therefore, is the capstone. We iterate the unimportance of this type of data. The so-called Great Pyramid had two capstones. One was of our design and was of smaller and carefully contrived pieces of material upon your planet, which you call granite. So one part of there was two capstones, and one of it was created by Ra, and the other one was used by material for the planet itself, which we call granite. This was contrived for crystalline properties and for the proper flow of your atmosphere via a type of what you would call chimney. So I know you looked that up, honey. Remember
Yes, first of all, the granite, when I wanted to prove, I want to prove the law of one, right? The raw contact, right? But I was checking Google and research to see, were they actually made of granite? Like, was Ra telling the truth? And again, across many different sites, I found that they were made of limestone, mortar, and granite. That's what they're made of. If you test the pyramids, that's what they're made of. And so the chimney, I like this part. This was contrived for crystalline properties and for the proper flow of your atmosphere via a type of what you would call chimney. So it's like it needs to offload energy, lights. I'm not even sure, but I found that to be so interesting that they designed the pyramids in a way to have a what you would call chimney. By the way, when you read crystalline properties, just remember, just think about perfect radiant light. So the more crystalline it is, and the better refractor of light and expressor of light it is, the more the initiate could channel that crystal light into intelligent infinity. And we're going to go deeper into what intelligent infinity means later, but just think about more light. And so that initiate would be able to channel the law of one. Oh, and bring what to the earth? Unity. All right. Chazin?
By the time when we as a people had left your density, the original was taken away. Ooh. And a more precious one substituted. It consisted in part of a golden material. This did not mean the properties of the pyramid, as you call it, at all, and was a distortion due to the desire of a few to mandate the use of the structure as a royal place only. So they're saying that the capstone itself, the original one, was taken away, which I assume the original one was the one that Ra created, and a more precious one of the people there, of the royal place, was substituted. So funny enough, right now we don't have a capstone on the Giza, it's completely empty. And so it was originally taken away, the one that Ra, God only knows, the law one, the infinite creator only knows where that is, maybe Ra knows. But a precious one was added. And the pyramid, instead of it being a place for initiation for everyone that wanted to know about the law of one, or at that time period, people, specifically probably the pharaohs, the royal people, ended up making it a royal place only. This did not change the properties of the pyramid, as you call it, at all. Okay, he's working here later. At a time when we left your planet, the original was taken away and a more precious substitute. It was the material. This did not change the properties of the pyramid, and it was due to a desire of a few to marry to use the structures of Rovism. It's the same thing then.
Yeah, I just like simplifying it here for my own reference later.
When we left your planet. Okay, I see.
Yeah, so again, they're talking about how the royal elite wanted to use this pyramid as a royal place only. So they did not allow other people to use it that were not elite. So when they said it was our naivete to think that we could show up and create pyramids, they were right, because they started using it for the elites. All right, 3.7.
Oh, wait a minute. So they took the capstone with them, is what I just read, correct?
Let's talk about that. It says, when we as a people left your density, the original was taken away and a more precious one substituted, and consisted in part of a golden material. This did not change the properties of the pyramid at all, and was a distortion due to the desire of a few to mandate the use of the structure.
Okay, got it. So Ra took the capstone that they created, the one made out of granite, as well as the one created from thought, And the people themselves in Egypt created a substitute and put it on top that had a golden material
Ooh,
later on.
that's what I'm wondering. It says the original was taken away and a more precious one substituted. So they didn't say that we took it away. So it could be that the people took it away. I don't know how they would do something like that in the first place.
I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious. I guess this sentence could have two meanings. This is one of those things where like, I wish they asked the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, it didn't say we took it away. It said that the original was taken away and a more precious one substituted. So it could have been the people of the time, or it could have been Ra. I'm not sure. It's a good question.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, I'll keep going.
So
Do you want me to keep going?
Questioner, what did you mean by chimney? What was it? What was its specific purpose? Ra. There was a proper flow of your atmosphere, which, though small, freshens the whole of the structure. This was designed by having airflow ducts, as this instrument might call them, situated so that there was a freshness of atmosphere without any disturbance or draft. So it created a flow. I wonder if it was used for energy or maybe just to give the initiate, the person inside the chamber, the ability to breathe while they were in it. I think
I will add that I have read a lot about pyramids after this whole shenanigans for the last 3 or 4 years. And it was talking about how there is airflow ducts in the pyramid. So it's not like it's a hot sauna in it.
Let's look it up. Pyramid airflow ducts. Oh, cool. That's what it looks like. Interesting. I don't know if that's
No, those are air ducts in general.
pyramid airflow duct.
Giza.
Giza. Yeah. There it is. Yes. So these are the airflow ducts. These. If I'm not mistaken. Let me see.
Yeah. They did a test where they put, I believe it was a rat and
Air
some
shaft.
kind of thing at different points of outside of the pyramid and put it in holes so that they could see where the rat ended up going. And later on in life, they ended up putting technology, actual little technology, little robots to go into these air shafts and or air ducts to really know where it would go or if there was anything else there. So yeah,
How
they've done a
deep?
lot of research.
I wonder how deep it went. Like how big the pyramid is. I'm gonna look that up. So yes, here's the Queen's air shafts with blocked openings. There was a proper flow of your atmosphere, which though small, freshens the whole of the structure. This was designed by having airflow ducts. Yes, okay. How were the blocks moved? I am Ra. You must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortions of your people. This is an obvious point well known to your peoples, but little considered. Oof, this is a big one. The energy, though finite, the energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortion of your peoples. This is an obvious point well known to your people, but little considered. So I think they're talking about the actual stones of the pyramid. The energy, though finite, is quite large compared to the mind of your peoples. Again, thought being infinite. Ooh. The energy is intelligent. It is hierarchical. Much as your mind-body-spirit complex dwells within an hierarchy of vehicles and retains, therefore, the shell or shape or field and the intelligence of each ascendingly intelligent or balanced body, so does each atom of such a material as rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the finite energy of the physical or chemical rock body is put into contact with that infinite power which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they human or rock. Well, that was a mouthful. At first, I had to break this down, but I really wanted to understand it. So here's what Chad said. Energy is intelligent and organized in levels. Just like your body, mind, and spirit are arranged in a hierarchy, with each level having its own form and intelligence, the same applies to every atom in a material like rock. you can connect with this intelligence. You can link with the limited energy of the physical rock with the infinite power present in higher, more balanced forms, whether they are human or rock. Oof. So basically, if we could connect to the infinite light within that rock, regardless if it's a material rock and it looks finite, if we can connect to the infinite intelligence in there, then we can move the rock. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates to its physical vehicle, and that splitting and moving which is desired is then carried out through the displacement of the energy field of rockness from finity to a dimension which we may conveniently call simply infinity. Now, this was, when I first heard this, I had to rewind it like 12 times. I could not understand it. I understood this as Ross saying that the astral/spirit part of the rock communicated with its physical part to move. In this way, that which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. This is, of course, the mechanism by which many things are accomplished which are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance. Once you connect with the intelligence of a rock, you can ask it to do anything. The infinite intelligence within the rock communicates with its physical form, making it possible to split or move by shifting its energy from a finite state to an infinite one. This process works because the rock, like all things, contains the Creator's infinite understanding. What? Did you read that? This process works because the rock, like all things, contains the Creator's infinite understanding. This is how many actions are performed that can't be explained by your current scientific methods. All right, my love.
I am totally having a moment. Well, we were in Bulgaria, a little story moment, and awareness that we only have 8 minutes left before the call is at 2 hours. So sorry, this is gonna be ending. I am thinking about how Yusuf and I go on a walk every morning when we were in Bulgaria with our date every day, period. And there was this huge rock, and the drink there is called rakia, and so we called the rock rakia. So we give names to rocks and trees when we walk around, and we're like, hey, Rakia, what's up? You know, he had kids around the neighborhood who searched name of them. I can only imagine if we continued that for so long and been meditating with the rock more often, that we can actually connect to the infinite energy within the rock, which for like you and I, you know, we would put our hands in the rock, we give it love, we say thank you, you know, all the things to start not awakening, but the consciousness is already awakened, but to create harmony between my consciousness and the rock's consciousness to connect and relate. Maybe, just maybe, Yusuf, we could have actually moved that road. Can you imagine? That would be great. Okay, bring that home. So since we only have 7 minutes, I'm gonna go with just opening the circle a little bit and seeing if anybody had any questions or comments about what we've shared so far, even if it's like oh my God, this is amazing. Always welcome.
Yeah, I think we got through a full session, and so we tried to sprinkle in a little bit of 3. This is, the first few sessions are just astounding to me, and I had to listen to them again and again and again for me to be like, whoa, there was a lot in there. So if there's anything that came up for you based on what we shared about the pyramids, the capstone, Ra, the placements of the different instruments, the circle of one, what a mind, body, spirit complex is, initiation, we talked about that. A lot of you have been initiated, by the way. You don't know it, but you have. You may not be aware yet, but you have. And so what they have shared with us is that if you have initiated, then great, because it's going to keep happening again and again and again the more you seek. And initiation is all about being a better channel for love light of the one infinite Creator, so that you can share the law of one. And you don't need, the thing about being a channel for love light or being an initiate is not about like, oh, I'm this guru and you need to eat only vegetables and you need to meditate all day. No, it's about simply being. There's nothing to do or say. But when you are bringing in more love from the creator, you are radiating love light, and your simple being transforms a planet. That's what Ra was trying to do with the crystals, with the pyramid, which is a giant crystal. Was they were trying to get more of these people to realize who they are. We're going to learn this in the next part, but the way the pyramids worked, where they would allow the initiate, the person in there, who Ra was trying to help them become radiant light beings so that they could affect the planet and help move the vibration and get things going, because people are believing in these many gods, and there's this power dynamic, and there's war, and the lifespan is really short. It was 30 years, I think, like average lifespan was 30 years. People are dying all the time. It's a lot of disharmony. So they wanted to create these crystallized beings, help create these crystallized beings on the planet. And the way they did that is through sensory deprivation. So if you ever, I can't wait to talk about this more in detail after. It's coming up soon. I think it is the next session. But if you've ever done a sensory deprivation tank, you'd understand I've done a sensory deprivation tank, and I was sober. I did not need weed, ketamine, or LSD like John C. Lilywood, the scientist, used to do, or Ram Dass would do back in the day, or Timothy Leary, or any of these psychonauts. But just sober, I was able to, I felt like I was floating in space. I had this sense of, I was high for the rest of the day on, I don't know what it was. I just felt so peaceful, because like I was floating in space, and I was like, oh my God, I am the center. I am that. I am. And I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I felt like I had this dream of that star becoming a star again in that sensory deprivation tank. And so I had more sense of oneness and unity. So think about it. If I had that experience sober in an isolation tank, has anyone ever tried those? No? So
How long is the experience, Yusuf? How long is the experience?
Like 1-2 hours. It depends on how much time you buy. You can do like 3 hours. I've always wanted to do 3 hours so I can get, or 3 or 4 on LSD and ketamine together specifically, or mushrooms, or really some good edibles, and just go in there for like 3 hours. But for me, I was in there for an hour, and it felt like an eternity.
And so are you able to move? Is it a little flexible in there, or you're rigid?
There's 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt, so you're just floating in water that feels the same temperature as your skin, so you don't feel anything, you don't see anything, you don't hear anything. It's completely dark. So eventually it just feels like you're floating on outer space. So that's where it starts, the sensory deprivation. It takes away your physical senses. You can't see or hear, smell, or taste anything, or anything. It's completely dark.
I ask because in the past I've experienced episodes of being claustrophobic. So that would be a heck of an experience.
At any point you can open the float tank, and there's actually, I know you watched Big Bang Theory, around one of the last 2 seasons, there's an episode where Sheldon and I forgot his partner's name right now, go into float tank. Amy. So Sheldon and Amy go into a float tank. So you can kind of see his experience, and he starts seeing sacred geometry and things like that in the float tank. It's really cool. Amy starts to see her future in the float tank. So it's an interesting episode, especially since we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
if Bayham will join me, I'm game. Fort Lauderdale, thank you. That was cool. Thanks,
catalyst integration system. Yeah.
Highly recommend.
And Jasmine, like you always say, or Tony Robbins, but you demonstrated that in our lives. I can't, therefore I must. Just for the heck of it. Why not? When you would freak out of a roller coaster, you'd come out crying. God, can we do that again? I was like, what?
It's like, I must defeat this. I must get through this. Yeah, that's why I went scuba diving, right? That was the biggie for me for a while. So yeah.
You guys are amazing. All of you here. Thank you.
So since I see that there's people interested in the float tanks, what I will just quickly say, and UC can talk more about this as well, just check the reviews, call the place, really see if it is a 5 senses deprivation tank. Because like we did an experience once where we could hear the cars passing by and beep beep. That is
It
not.
wasn't dark. It
There's
wasn't
not the
dark.
right thing.
There wasn't enough salt, so you weren't floating per se.
Yeah.
It wasn't
So
fully, wasn't sensory deprivation.
yeah. So please make sure if you experience that, like maybe even talk to the people, check in with them. Hey, how much is like, what is the experience like? Can I test it for 5 minutes before, or et cetera, et cetera? Can I get a refund if I don't like it? Check in. So that's all I asked. Have the actual experience, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick said a float tank for about 90 minutes. Yeah. That's about the average. I paid for an hour. The guy gave me 2 hours for free. He just wanted to let me keep floating. It's basically high density salt water you can float on. Exactly. Claudia said the closest for me, it was an oxygen chamber. I've actually never done that. That sounds really cool. Not exactly the same, but it is, I think, important for us to oxygenate more often. And I've heard stories of people saying they feel amazing after these oxygen chambers. Yes. So the reason why I brought that up is because Ra used this method of sensory deprivation to create more radiant light beings on the help facilitate more radiant light beings on the planet. So that might be something you might want to consider for you and think about, okay, sitting still. Why is sitting still so fucking difficult for me? But why is it so incredibly effective for realizing who I really am beyond my job, my to-do list, my values, my family, my upbringing? So sitting still in a salt tank, or sitting still in general, obviously is going to be beneficial, but a salt tank or a float tank in general, where you have no ability to move, smell, taste, touch, hear, that is going to be incredibly powerful for realizing the law of one within. So if you're had questions last call and you were like, or comments, and you're like, I still don't see the oneness. I don't see how that the Rothschild family and the Rockefellers and their money and oil and power and pharmas are the creator. They're not the creator. They're evil. Well, maybe a salt tank, a float tank, some sessions in that, you could realize oneness and start seeing everything as the creator. I'm jumping ahead, but yes.
Yeah. I will quickly just add, if you treat it like a ceremony, it becomes a ceremony. So whether or not you do the sensory deprivation tank, you always have the possibility of sitting in stillness in your own home, putting a timer on, whatever it is. If you just want to get a mini version of it, you can. And then coming in a ceremonial space of opening up, doing the circle of one from the law of one, making sure that you're protected, and then creating an intention for the time period that I'm going to give myself this hour, whether it's in the float tank or not, and just sitting with yourself with that intention, constantly coming back, kind of like a mantra. No, my intention is love right now. My intention is to finally understand why I can't seem to balance my mind, body, spirit complex. And I want to be able to not have to, whatever it is that Darcy was talking about earlier, anybody else, whatever your thing is at that moment, whatever you're going through, and you can focus on your intention or releasing, accepting, loving, and I am practices all within. So, yeah, I think that's a great ending. What do you think?
Wanted to say one last thing. I love all of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you both for your services and everyone that shared. Love you. We'll see you, next Thursday?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I think
say
this worked out well.
I'm gonna say one last thing. This is not goodbye, of course, permanently. We're gonna see you next week on Thursday. I know you have read ahead. If you want to just join us and just follow along as we go, that's great. If you read the book or listen to it and you come up with questions or you're more familiar with it, you will have an advantage. So it is best to go through it regardless of the speed that we're going at, so that we can all finish it and have dialogue, have conversation, have fun together chatting about this. So please, if you can, read it, or maybe talk about it, show up with questions next time, chime in, and keep doing this together, and we will grow to a better understanding of unity. and all its distortions. So next week, we're gonna talk hopefully about the pyramids some more. We got into lesson 3 today, but we're gonna finish lesson 3 next call and hopefully get into lesson 4. So we'll see you next time. Thank you again for being here. There was 9 people on the call, so it's great to see all of you here. And I know it is a Thursday, and I think it's like 12 p.m. EST. So thank you for taking the time to be here. We love you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Blessings.
Bye. By the way, go ahead and unmute and say bye. Go ahead. In 3, 2,
Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
oh,
Hey, it's
Love you all.
9 Universal Day.
it's what?
It's a 9 Universal Day.
Oh, what does that mean?
I know.
Well, you know, in numerology, I study numerology a lot. It's like a daily thing that I just naturally,
That's
so
important.
8 is our year, right? And 6 and 13 are 10.
It's a 9-day.
It's
9-day
it's
is higher
the ending
knowledge.
of a cycle,
An ending of a cycle.
which brings like we're going into birth mode. Lots of transformation energy, lots of releasing, letting go, surrendering, and recreating soon. The 9 moving into the 1 energy is recreating something new.
Whew.
Oh, that's a
Chills.
good
Yeah,
one. Thank
surrender.
you,
Thank
Juliana.
you.
Always
Bye.
adding stuff. We love you. Thank you.
Bye.